I'd like to call the meeting of the Nisswa Public Works Committee to order. Missing tonight our normal chair, John Ryan, so I'll be handling the duties of running the meeting. So our first topic on the agenda is open forum. Is there anybody that needs or wants to speak on anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on from that. So our second agenda item is the Grandview Traffic Committee update, a presentation from SPAC. So I'll turn over the floor at this point.
Thank you very much. My name is Max Mullen. With SPAC Consulting. My name is Max Mullen. I work with SPAC Consulting. We're helping out with the traffic study for the Grandview Lodge expansion on the Highway 77 Nokomis Avenue area. So I've got a few slides we're going to run through, kind of talk about what we've done, what we're looking at, and where we're going to go with the study. We've already done some data collection and an existing conditions memo, and coming out of this meeting, we're going to take some of the comments we hear and the recommendations we show and kind of come up with our final plan for the area there. All right, so just a recap of what we've done for data collection. This map here is Highway 77 on the south side's Grandview Lodge. You can see the top of the lake down there. We did some turning movement counts, which means we counted all the cars going through the intersection, how many lefts, throughs, and rights there are at these 6 intersections on the weekend before the 4th of July, Thursday through Sunday. So we counted all the vehicles over that period. We also collected speed data on Highway 77 at these 2 locations. We put some tubes across the road and figure out how fast vehicles are going. Turns out the westbound vehicles at both locations are going about 57 miles an hour. Eastbound's going about 52. It's posted 50, so people are going. People are moving through the area. Pretty good speed. We also did sight distance checks, which means we went at these 4 locations, sitting on the side street approaches to the Highway 77, looking left and looking right to figure out if there's enough distance to safely make a turn either way, and there is. So if vehicles are going about the speeds they're going, you can safely make a turn onto 77 from either direction. So that's the data collection we did at the end of June, early July. Using that information, we and some other information, forecasted what traffic is going to look like in the area in the year 2025, so in 7 years from now. We did that by using forecasts for new developments. This kind of just shows generally what's going to be built in the area in the next few years, or what's planned to be built in the area in the next few years. Some additional lodging areas, an expansion for the spa, an activity center, a chapel, moving some of the employee housing. So we used data from the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation forecasts to estimate how many trips some of these are going to be using. We also used information that the Lodge gave us so we could put all that together and figure out how many cars are going to be coming to and from the area in the future on a typical day, typical hour during the peak hour. And then we took those numbers and routed them through the network there. And we also accounted for traffic that will increase in the area that's not due to the Lodge, and that's just general growth, and that's along Highway 77. So we looked at past counts that have been on there in the past 7 years. Several counts have been taken along Highway 77, and there's a pretty much straight line growth of about 3% growth in traffic volumes per year on Highway 77. So that's a pretty good amount of growth that we're seeing. So we kind of bumped up our numbers on 77, and we could take all those, once we put all these new future cars on the road, we could analyze what the intersections will look like in the year 2025. So the 6 intersections that we took counts at, we then found the 2 peak hours, which are the 2 hours of busiest traffic at each of them, and we ran some numbers on them. And using traffic engineering industry standards, the 5 intersections in green are going to operate acceptably during peak hours with delays of roughly about 15 to 20 seconds per vehicle per intersection. So if you were, for example, coming down off Linden, turning left onto Woodward, going through, turning left onto Nokomis, to get through these 3 intersections, it might take you a minute, minute and a half, but per intersection, it's only going to take you 20 or so seconds. So we, with our industry standard thresholds, we consider that to be acceptable. You'll notice Nokomis and 77 is a red dot. That's because we forecast that this northbound approach will be operating with what we call level of service F, which is an A to F scale. It's going to have delays of about 100 seconds per vehicle, stacking of about 5 to 10, usually around 8 vehicles during those peak hours. So that's going to be, pretty significant delay at that location in the year 2025 if we didn't change the roadways or make any modifications. Oh boy. All right, so focusing again on that 77 Nokomis, because that's where we saw the worst operations. We ran traffic signal warrants, which are thresholds, volume-based thresholds of when a traffic signal could be warranted at an intersection. Not whether it should go in, but whether it would be needed or help the intersection. And we found it would be, right now, with the volumes as is, a traffic signal would not be warranted there. But if you were to build most of this new development this year, it would be. If you were to build only part of the new development next year, it would be. And if you were to do nothing, no extra buildings in the Grandview Lodge area, by the year 2025, this area is that intersection could warrant a traffic signal. So, long story short, this intersection is a candidate for upgrades in the near future. So using the analysis we did, as well as comments we received from residents, from the lodge, from the city, from the county, from pretty much everyone involved, we boiled this down to 6 different issues in the area, transportation issues. The first 3 are focused on the 77 Nokomis intersection. The first issue is ped and bike safe crossings. It's a busy intersection, it's high speed, so there is concerns about peds and bikes crossing safely. There are a large number of ped and bike crossings, on some days up to nearly 200 pedestrians and 100 bicycles crossing this intersection in one day. So there's good volumes of peds and there's some good volumes of high-speed traffic, which leads to, understandably, some concerns. The second issue at this intersection is regarding the westbound vehicle traffic. When people are trying to make a left turn off of 77 onto Nokomis, going from this way and turning left, we heard comments and we actually saw during some of our counts vehicles behind them going around them in the right turn lane. It's not, which is an illegal maneuver and it's unsafe. There is no bypass lane there, so people, instead of waiting, would go around. So that's an issue that we saw. Another issue is just, as growth occurs, the traffic on Nokomis here is going to just kind of continue to get worse and worse. Another issue we flagged is kind of ped and bike activity along the roads surrounding the lodge. We received a lot of comments of those, and in our observations and our drive-throughs of the area, we saw just a lot of peds not necessarily sticking to the striped pedestrian facilities, kind of walking in the road, kind of going wherever they want. Another issue is, based on comments we received, is there's a good number of Grandview Lodge related traffic on Linden Boulevard, both east and west. So traffic that should be going somewhere in the lodge is somehow ending up over here. And the last issue is traffic from these non-lodge areas just having to kind of fight through the area here. So we're going to run through each of these issues and some alternatives. We're going to focus on the Nokomis and 77 area. So the way we did this is by looking at different alternatives for the intersection. The first one would be to add a northbound right turn lane. That'd be right here. As of right now, there's only one lane there, so if you add a right turn lane, that can allow for more free rights instead of people having to wait if the car in front of them wants to make a left turn, if someone else wants to make a right, they don't have to wait for them. And then looking at the three issues of the ped bike issues, the westbound go-arounds, and then the northbound stacking, this doesn't help peds or bikes at all. It doesn't fix the issue of people going around, but it sort of improves. That's a down and an up, wiggle back and forth, the operations on this northbound approach, since the rights can go kind of free flow. Another option we looked at would be adding eastbound and westbound turn lanes on Highway 77. Right now it's a shared through left in both directions, so if you add a lane, it's going to be a lot of pavement you need to add, but you could add a lane there, so there's a dedicated lane for each movement on 77. That actually makes things worse for peds and bikes because there's another lane of traffic that people need to cross if they want to cross the street. And then there's no one, the throughs are not slowing down, they don't need to slow down or stop for anybody. So any peds or bikes are going to have more lanes of high-speed traffic to deal with. Vehicles that are currently going around the right turns now have their own lane, so they don't, that illegal maneuver would be removed if we added a lane there. There's no improvement to the operations here on Nokomis, though, with the added turn lanes. Another option we looked at is limiting access on Nokomis here. So if we said people can only turn right here, and if people wanted to go through or left off of Nokomis, they would have to go somewhere else. Go down, there's a maintenance road, so they have to go use the maintenance road. It kind of restricts the movement, something like this, where the main line can still go through right or left, and northbound is forced by some physical barrier to only make right turns. It doesn't really help peds or bikes. It doesn't really help the weaving issue we have on 77, but it does really improve operations here because, well, a bunch of people have to go somewhere else. And the people here can only make a right turn. So if you can only make a right turn, things are looking good. But that is, there's a lot of rerouting and detouring that would be needed with this option. Second to last option, we're getting near the end here, is to add a signal to the intersection here. Signal can improve things for peds and bikes because you can get that pedestrian phase as you cross 77 or as you cross every leg. So they can cross, when they have a specific time for them to cross when traffic is stopped for them. The way it's laid out right now, it doesn't really fix that weaving around issue. If you did do the combination of the signal and the 3 lanes on 77, the left turn lane through and a right turn lane, you could make that a green thumbs up. And if this was a signal, the northbound approach, it would work pretty well. There would be some delay added to the main line, which some vehicles currently, they can just go right through without stopping, and so there's no delay for them. But occasionally they would have to stop for the signal. So their delay would slightly go up. Everything would still work well. I think average delays would be less than 10 seconds per vehicle if you average it out over the course of an hour. So a signal could be an option for this area. The last alternative we looked at is a single lane roundabout. Picture this, it would actually be a good bit bigger than the roundabout here. But one approach lane, something like this. We kind of looked at the volumes for the year 2025, and we don't think a 2-lane roundabout would be needed. So a single lane roundabout should handle the capacity with the added development and some future growth, and still have excess capacity for even more future growth. And single lane roundabouts are exactly what they sound like. It's one approach lane. Enter the roundabout, you can go whichever way you want. Single lanes are easier to navigate than a dual lane roundabout. I know there's a roundabout over here in Nisswa, not too far by the trail, and so there is a roundabout in the area, so some folks are used to it. From a ped and bike standpoint, they can be seen as a big improvement for a couple of reasons. One is traffic slows down. You can't drive 57 miles an hour through a roundabout, or else you're going to fly right through the middle and have a big crash. You've got to go 15 to 20 miles an hour when you're going around. So vehicles are going a lot slower. The difference between a pedestrian being hit by a 50 mile an hour car and a 20 mile an hour car is very significant. Also with roundabouts, there's a median here on each approach, so when pedestrians cross, they only have to cross one lane of traffic at a time, so they can look to the left, cross, stop, look to the right, cross. So two-stage crossing at a low speed can be good for peds and bikes. There's no opportunity for these westbound vehicles to go around left-turning vehicles because there's only one lane. Everyone enters the roundabout. You can't bypass that. And then with the roundabout, northbound operations would be working quite well. Level of service A, which would be delay of less than 10 seconds per vehicle, and that applies to all approaches. And one benefit of a roundabout over a signal is, let's say you are driving through here at 4 in the morning, if there's a signal, you might have to stop and wait for nobody and wait for the signal to change. A roundabout works at all times of the day. When it's busy, they work well, and when it's light, they work just as well. You can flow right through them. So kind of comparing our different, our very complex scale of thumbs up or thumbs down, looking at the single lane roundabout, we feel like that's the best option for the area, so that's our recommendation for that intersection there. The signal could be, that could be a thumbs up if you add a lane, but just with the lower speeds, I kind of like this option. So that takes care of the first three issues. The fourth issue we want to look at is ped and bike traffic on the roads surrounding the lodge. There's a few different things that could be done. One is looking at this map of the lodge. You can see these white lines. These are ped facilities. And you notice that they don't fully connect around. So if you're going up on the west side of Woodward here, you're stuck here, you got to dump over, cross, come back up here, cross over again. So if I'm up in somewhere up here and I want to go down to somewhere down here, as a pedestrian, I'm going to take the shortest path. I'm not going to walk down and cross back. I'm just going to stay on my side. And so that's why you see a lot of people in the road. Also, these are narrow roads, and some of the ped facilities are kind of narrow. And around a lodge, a lot of people move in groups. And so if you were walking in a group with two other people, you don't want to walk in a straight line. You want to walk side by side because you're talking or you're at a lodge. You're having fun. So kind of that's having a lot of people in the road, blah, blah, blah. So one way to alleviate the pedestrian in the road issue is to complete these connections. Have full connections on both sides of all the roads here, Forest, Nokomis, and Woodward. That will give people an option to be out of the road. Another option is, it's called shared space. It's a total kind of redesign of the roadways. A lot of times they're done with different pavement markings, and it's more of a free-for-all version of a road where peds and cars live together in perfect harmony on the streets. So here's an example. Here's another example. People kind of walking alongside the cars. It gives peds the freedom to cross and come and go as they please. Cars obviously have to slow down, be more defensive as they drive through. They can still get through, but it's less of a through route and more of it's a shared space. Here's another example where this was in Massachusetts, where the front doors just kind of butt up right to the road, and people and cars just kind of coexist in the area. Another option for improving pedestrian interactions around the lodge is to consider one-way operations on Woodward down here. If we went one way from south of there's an intersection here with a parking lot and then kind of an under construction road here. If we went south of there, it's one-way operations. You can skinny up the road because you only need half of it for cars and use the rest of that existing pavement for pedestrian facilities. So you can make wider ped facilities and have the lane of traffic with what's already out there existing without needing to take more land from either side for a sidewalk. If you did do one-way southbound here, these cars would need a way to get out, so they'd be trapped here on this one-way road. So you would need a connection over here to this kind of future maintenance road that's going to connect up and plan to be paved and connect up to Highway 77. So that would be kind of the outlet. So vehicles up here for the future hotel and cabins can still come in and out here, but if anyone down here, they'll need to dip out that way. And we'll talk a little bit more about this connection in a few minutes. Another option for improving ped and bike facilities around is just to reduce the speed limit. As you enter the area coming down Nokomis, it's signed for 30. According to Minnesota state statutes, you can change that speed limit down to be, the lowest regulatory speed is down to 25 miles an hour. So you could, the city could work to get the speeds lowered on these areas down to 25, and that would have to be signed if it's lower than 30, or if it's changed from 30. So changing the speed limits out there is an option. So quick recap about things to deal with peds and bike issues is increase the network of sidewalks and trails, some sort of shared space concept, lower the speeds, or one-way operations on Nokomis in this stretch, or Woodward in that stretch, sorry. And these are the roads that would have the 25 mile an hour speed limit on them.
You said 25 is the lowest you
Yes. So according to the state, we can go down to 25 with the markings, with the regulatory speed limit sign. Fifth issue is having, based on comments we received, lodge traffic kind of making its way down to Linden. And that's mostly due to, I mean, there's no reason for anyone trying to get to the restaurants over here to drive down these roads. So that's mostly a drivers not knowing where to go. And so the way to fix that is add wayfinding signs. Colleges, campgrounds, a lot of other places have really good wayfinding signs such as these. So as you enter down Nokomis, show some arrows like where do I park for this area? Where do I park for these cabins? X through Y are over here. The chapel parking's over here. The restaurant parking's to the left, or wherever. Placing wayfinding signs such as this in areas kind of all around at every big decision point for where drivers need to go. So that way people know that there's no reason for them to come down this road if they're trying to get somewhere over here. So that sounds like that will, yeah.
There would be a reason if you want to go west.
Yep, yeah. Yeah, so if we did a connection here.
You did one way.
Yep, if we did a one-way and did the connection in this area, there'd be another sign over here, or like no outlet signs here. Signage that will tell people from the lodge, don't go past this connection. So they'd be on this stretch here, but not going past that area there. The last issue is just having some of this local traffic dealing with the Grandview Lodge area roads. And we kind of touched on it before, but one possibility would be, this road is going to come down and connect through to here. It's part of the plans, but then adding a connector from here to here. So that way, any traffic from here could choose to bypass the lodge altogether and go up this way and not have to come down this way. Any traffic, if we did a one-way operations, anyone coming down here would then go up and leave that way. And having a connection here will have an increase in traffic on this stretch, but it will not increase the traffic on this stretch because there's no reason for anyone to go this way if they're trying to get out, with proper signage, of course. Because anyone coming down from 77 wanting to come in here, they can go in there. There's no reason for them to go that way. Yep, and so that can be to reinforce that people shouldn't be going down West Linden beyond this point. You can do signage like we talked about, or relay the roads so that this becomes the through movement and you have to turn to get onto West Linden. So just kind of beat it into the driver's heads that if you're down here and you want to go this way, curve the road a little bit so they follow that naturally, and then if you want to get on Linden, you got to make a turn. And so that'll further keep out any excess traffic on West Linden there. So that's our quick little presentation there. We can take any questions as they come up.
I have one question.
Sure. Yep.
watch it, I have a bird back in.
Okay.
Increase the number of cars exponentially. And they're going to be taking maintenance.
Sure.
They're going everywhere. I think that some have gas on them, some have stuff for watering plants, chemicals and so forth, the laundry vehicles. Just incredible amount of brand new home. And I don't know what the rules are of having enormous amount of golf cart traffic on city roads. And I don't know if you're, you said peds and bikes, where do you fit the golf cart type traffic?
Sure.
I'm not talking about golf carts that are on the golf courses. Golf, there are a few of those.
Yeah, with supplies and stuff going back and
But
forth.
there's crazy.
Well, the deal is they don't have signals on them, they don't use hand signals, you're never really sure where they're going or what they're gonna do. It's too dark. They don't even stop at the stop signs.
They'll be riding on the grass and all of a sudden out on the road right in front of them.
Okay.
That's a grand view. They've got
Yeah, that's
structure
not
people.
Yeah.
business, that's going to be employees.
Yeah.
And last night, I read that.
And Ms. Drew said it, but that would be part of Grandview clarifying the rules for them, that, you know, you're not, as a golf cart, you should be on the road, don't be cutting food yards, don't be surprising people where to go. And signal would be great, but it is up to them to instruct their employees as to how to use it correctly.
Maybe you should mention to where the parking lot is right now, where the employee housing is right now. So right now, you can get to the maintenance area. There's a walking trail that goes, you know, so they said, are they maybe not, you know, to me, all their work vehicles should be using that road to get into the laundry and maintenance area instead of on West Limb.
What is the condition of their building permits, which they have not filed? Also, during your study, I'm, memory is correct, that little black line you have there that's going towards the maintenance shops and out the back, that has a yellow gate on it. It was supposed to be locked. And the Grandview employee stuff was not supposed to go through there and travel through that area at all. They were all supposed to divert out on the northwest corner of 77, their service road, and or by the golf course, which that was under construction. And for a period of time when you did your survey, that was closed also because it was under construction.
Hey, Matt, we're going to talk about some of that stuff here. That's a specific agenda item.
I'm trying to point out things that I don't think are in their study.
Sure.
Okay.
Also, I'm sure, I know you guys will talk about too, is the lack of information on Woodward and West Linden because the cameras went up, surprisingly. That information. I'd like to go back to another photo you had up that had sidewalks coming down. Woodward primarily is what my eyes focused on. You were talking about paths. I assume that the yellow is what you're proposing.
The yellow would be, yeah, just a connection completion.
And I see that that is on the west side of the, or excuse me, east side of Tacoma, right next to the rock. That's pretty sharp bank there.
What are you talking about?
Bank, the yellow line going all the way south is on the east side of Woodward,
Here?
but it's on the west side of the resort building.
Yeah. These aren't actually where we say the sidewalk should be. It's more of a concept of completing sidewalk connections.
That is.
Yeah, I assume that's why it's not there now. It's because they have them cut across the street just above there because it's a little dicey in that spot. So it'd be more of a concept on just completing connections. We can look at different ways to do that, if that's the way we wanted to take it.
The only other point I wanted to make, I was out on 77 in Tacoma, just east of that location, the speed limit drops to 35, stays 35 also that S turn, and then goes back up to 50 on the other side. So when you set your traffic steady speed for 52 and 57, and I
Yep.
know one of those markers were in on the
And that is an advisory 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, so we advise. It's, yep.
We're certainly, if you have more questions, Tim, if you have questions, and so the thought, so that everybody knows, is SPAC will take your comments, questions, and they're going to work on the final report and present that. We haven't probably worked out exactly what that timing is, but wanted to just make sure you have the opportunity. So certainly that we're here tonight. If you want to provide more feedback, we'll do that, and then we'll decide later as a committee how many more times we want to meet or what we want to do before we get the final report, and kind of go from there. So, Tim, did you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that's right there. I'm just curious when the volumes get to the point where warrant one is.
So yeah, this was warrant 1's the 8 hour? 8 hours is warrant 1. So in these three conditions listed, it is met, either condition A, B, or AB. I can't remember exactly which right now, but and I think actually with the no build, it was before 2025. That was just our year of focus, was 2025. I think it was 2022 or 23 that with the no build volume, that 8 hour warrant is met at that location. And we focused on the garden cottages because I know that some of those are under construction already. So next year, if those are fully occupied, it would be met. So kind of depending on the stage of development and the year, it'll be met probably in a couple of years.
Remind me about warrant one. Is there state warrants?
Yep.
Delay.
Yeah, warrant 1 is just 8 hour volume. You're the warrant expert.
So there's three conditions for the warrant. One is called 1A, 1B, and then 1A plus B. And it's just different combinations of volume. Whether we're looking at how much is on the mainline, how much is on the side street. 1, 2 is 4 hour. It's basically a threshold that is met for 4 hours during the day. That triggers the warrant. Warrant 3, there's a B and D on that one. That's where there's a low within the hours. I think we met that one. Same period.
I believe so, yeah. With
It wasn't meant today, but all within 5 years, we're gonna hit it. And then the other warrants are not dotted.
Yeah.
School, pedestrian, ashes.
Yeah. We've got a big table of all the warrants and when they were met and not met, so I could share that with you too.
Yeah, that's been interesting.
Yeah.
We have a lot of girls in this self-government now. There's several dollars. How many are where you projected on all of them? So because it's across.
Yeah, existing was,
Basically, it's
yep, existing was around 1,200 per day. And future is higher than that. I don't have the numbers. I can find those numbers for you. Yeah.
just curious about that because we have other intersections that are.
Sure. Yeah, we'll give you all this stuff for that.
I have a question.
Yep.
If you go back to the screen, you proposed using the service entrance into 77.
Just this right here?
Yeah, that's one. Okay, this is the existing service earlier there. Yeah, highlighting red,
Yeah.
roughly. Okay. Now here's what you got. I'm here, Grandview got this corner. Laura's at this corner. And then it's Grandview here. Why do
again, that's why we don't want to say that's the exact position. It's more of a concept of, let's make this connection. And maybe it is, or maybe it's on the east side, that they go to serve on the other side, and use some of the land on that side, someone else.
In your concept of pushing this additional traffic to that, wherever it is coming on 77, did you put that number into your 77 intersection?
Yes.
Yep,
With
yeah.
no changes to 77? Because there's no turn lanes, there's no shoulders, it's just two-way traffic. And this is also where all their delivery vehicles are coming and going from, which are large 18-wheel vehicles. To get,
One of the things that happened with 77 is because of these lots, to the east of the Nokomis, you have a higher amount of traffic there than you have to the west. There's about a 25% drop. So that's why we can take some of the traffic diverted over the intersection, and they're able to complete that movement because there's less conflicting traffic. So when we look at the operation, that's one of the big reasons that we can divert them over, and we don't necessarily, capacity-wise, we don't necessarily need any limit. So it's not saying if we look at this view, the county or the city might look at it and say, you know what, for other reasons, we want to add something. For capacity reasons, we're fine with that.
and just because it's professional, it doesn't melt in my mind that that's going to work that way. But
Another aspect of it too is a lot of people coming out and taking a left way back into town. So the right turn is less difficult to make.
yeah, I don't know what that service road is going to look like, but assuming it's like all the other roads, are just two-way traffic, there's not going to be a right turn lane for people.
Correct, but if you have 10 vehicles and only one is taking the left and 9 are taking the right, and a couple they come up and have a left turn, the others are moving before they
If
do.
you're on the line, the semi trying to go out on the road that has traffic coming from the west, that semi is going to sit there for a while.
Yeah.
Beer trucks, or whatever, delivery trucks.
We're not saying there's no room.
Right.
So keep that in mind. What we look at is that average during the peaks and say, you know, on average, if you come up to it at any random time during the peak, this is about the delay you see.
Would you say
That is
that
a threshold that we can
by your studies that when you have a delay at an intersection to get out, the risk factor is higher for people just forcing themselves out? I got to get going.
Yeah, that's part of the reason we have a grading system and why we have, that's part of where we put those lines in is what we think is acceptable or not. Because there comes a point, and it varies depending on the driver, but there comes a point where they say that threshold for when they turn, it starts out as I'm waiting for a larger gap, and then it slowly starts to shrink as they start, you know, well, I can probably make this one, I'm just going to go, get tired of waiting. That's part of the threshold that we look at for acceptable versus not.
I would go away.
You might have said, but what were the peak hours?
The peak hours, they were, I have that written down here. In the report. It's important. It was on, okay, it varied actually a little bit intersection to intersection, so we looked at the highest volume on each intersection, but at Nokomis and 77, it was, one was on a Thursday, one was on a Friday. The Thursday and the Friday before the 4th of July. Somewhere in the afternoon. Yeah, one was in the afternoon, one was in the morning. Ah, gosh. I actually don't say it.
There are various peaks that we saw through the weekend, but for what we wanted to analyze, we picked the two highest spots. So we wanted to say, let's start with the highest, we'll throw more traffic on there, let's get this to really what we think is going to be at top end, and then let's figure out what we do. And then if it's lower than that, that's our hours are going to be, and the break gets easier.
consider, or can they not consider any other entrances on 77? That's something that's not going to happen from the development that's going on the golf course right now, so that those people don't have to come in at all.
Something out
Yeah, 'cause
here.
there's already a road there now for construction. Is that ever considered, or is it unsafe?
Well, we looked at it briefly, but as you start with the curves, and you take a condition of the site distance, we'll make sure you have safe site distance. There's also what we call access spacing, where we want to make sure intersections are far enough apart from each other that you don't have people there, you don't have overlapping buildings. So if you, again, we didn't go too far down the line with it, because I just tried to go with those factories, up and try to fit another one in. And that's before we were talking to the county and saying, do they want more in here? So that's not to say, talk to see the possibility, we can go back and get it a little bit more. But just as we started going through the analysis, it seemed like it.
Or connecting that development to the existing maintenance road back there. So, yeah, having everybody come in from the home is why not go that way, shoot out.
I believe that is part of it. This road would connect down here, and then some, and so then everything added up here will have a direct connection onto that road and come up one.
Again, part of the, not part of the problem, but if most people are headed to the east, they're going to take the first one.
Yes. Which is what we want to do. Because,
Yeah.
you know, I live there at the bottom of the hill and Woodward, so I would be, yeah, doing my stretch between maintenance road and Woodward, which is already, you know, we have been traffic there. They've got a lot better than the maintenance road that's closed off.
And I would, and with the new road that's coming in, and with the wayfinding sign, which I would hope that would improve. And then we talked about improvement, and then we talked about employees as well. Some of the other that,
Yeah, they
it's
don't.
not sure.
Yeah, no.
All these little things can add up.
And brand new, they have, the kids have a tough time, because we see a lot of that, going on, and they are told that they need to get off the sidewalk if someone's walking on the sidewalk, so they do that, they go on the road, and that creates a problem for people on the road. So, you know, I just don't know if there's a way to have a designated cart path that they take.
Grandview cart path, and then a pedestrian bicycle path.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, and that's, you start to try to fit a lot into a small area.
Grandview has a lot of land. Doesn't have to fit in on the public street way. They're the ones that want to expand the size of the resort, on the backs of that little road.
It will shake there on here, you like to beat up on all the time, they are, and stuff. I know, it's not your fault. Shake it.
Any,
When we start talking dollars and cents, that's another issue, obviously, but, again, I don't want to disparage, I don't want to happen. It will then give us information that we can look into us on the board. So, they have been participating in the process.
any other concerns, questions you want to share?
I would just like to say, and this is not me, is the plans Joe has come up with, that might be something that might work, but knowing my neighbors, I doubt the one-way forest is going to fly with them at all. Woodward.
Right. Yeah. No.
It would be a change, it would be a major change. Yeah, I mean, we're have to go.
Do you have any thoughts on, I noticed when you put up the picture, trying to straighten out the walking paths and bike paths, where there's connected lines so people don't have to zigzag back and forth. Is there a feasibility to put one on each side of the Nokomis Forest Woodward that you would eliminate the crossing back and
That would
forth?
be the ideal, that's what we would want to go with. How that gets done, and the concept is there, we need to be more looking at it to say, is it next to the road, is it back further away where we can get out of some of the slopes or we can redirect, but yes, the concept that we would like to see is both sides. And more than just the 3 or 4 foot sidewalk, right? We're trying to 6 foot. Again, that's where we went with the one way, because we could expand pedestrians.
Unless they put their cars on the separate paths.
Without it, again, the group you got, nobody likes to be in a group full of walkers.
I've got a picture that I can share with you of a car stopped on the hill going down, unloading all their luggage, and there's got to be 6, 7 people in the picture that then are trying to get onto that walk path. There were 3 of them on the road still, going down with all their luggage.
We did see a bunch of that. We spent some time watching it operate. It took a tour with the city as we were going through the winter stop. Yeah, very aware of that.
Unloading their luggage and
Yes.
there's this Belgian shop.
I've got one last question. This is to the city again. Now, whatever happens with the service road, however they decide to use it for access, that's currently private road. Currently, yes. So how, if you open it up to public traffic, that becomes city responsibility, right?
Possibly. I mean, it could become a private road that's paved and with, access, no different than, like the golf course entrance or anything like that. But we have talked to Mark about possibly making that a city-maintained road.
But who pays?
Well, he would pay to get it paved and brought up to city spec before we would take it over. There might be some city cost share there somewhere, but I couldn't speak to that. There's no plan on paper. It's just ideas at this point.
Well, that's, I guess, going further, and I know what public works is. But I've been involved in the whole thing, being planning. This should have been part of that original conversation. We're playing catch up now. All of permits, we still don't know how to practice. But I'm suggesting in the future, you see develop this size. I mean, planning going to see a lot of smaller requests for rezoning. But something this size, it's got to be more comprehensive. And nailed down. I rest my case.
All right, anything else? You guys got everything noted and those concerns noted and go from here.
Yeah, we got everything written down.
In this period, just to the county benefit, on the farm road, I asked them to report, I actually put a 2-scale layout at that intersection, just for how far off property you go, or where, right now it's just a graphic, but they offer you with 2-scale on there, just so that
So just to reiterate, we'll work with SPAC as far as the timeline and the final report. And so the question I have for the committee members in the audience is, would you like to meet again to just talk about more, some of these options, ideas? If you'd like to do that, we can work on getting something scheduled in the meantime, so. I'm sorry? We did put a follow-up potential. I didn't realize I'd have two committee members absent tonight. We were going to talk about schedules, but if that worked for you, if you had interest in it, I would follow up with them and see if they wanted to do that as well. So we're happy to do that. And thank you to Bryant and Max for coming tonight and being here. We appreciate it. So.
Okay, so that was basically number 4 on the agenda there, you just took care of? Yeah. And number 3, Grandview expansion project, Mark's not here, so anything you want to add?
I'll just add that staff has internally been working on their conditions from their planning and zoning piece and also their traffic mitigation plan that they had put together. We've been working on kind of statuses of all those different items. We'd like an opportunity to meet with Mark Ronai and talk with him about some of these things and then try to come up with a thoughtful approach on how we address them, if we need to bring it to Public Works or Planning and Zoning or how that will work. But I know with so much happening at one time, some of those things are just, okay, that wasn't logical to do right at this moment, so what's our plan for that? So I think it'll be helpful to hear from him on that, and then we'll follow up. Figuring that's likely best done after Labor Day, just with the summertime and everything, but that's our plan, so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to agenda number 5, county and state road project cost sharing, budgeting, upcoming projects, County Road 13,371, 115 and 77.
It's fortunate that we have Tim here tonight.
Yeah.
Can kind of add some color to what I'm about to bring up. And actually, this stems from a conversation Tim and Jenny have had regarding 115. There'll be a portion of that that will be our responsibility. Currently, in our road budget, we don't have a line item for county or state projects for our cost share. So that one particular road, our share is $50,000 estimated at this point. And there's at least 2 other projects that we believe are probably going to have a cost share of that magnitude or greater. And so what I'm hoping to do is to get you and the other committee members and probably the council members thinking is, how large should a line item like that be going forward? It's a real cost for our department that we really haven't addressed at any point in the past that I'm aware of.
Right.
And so we get caught off guard. One of the places where that's happened is, for instance, when they repainted the intersection, the signals at 77 a few years ago, when they upgraded those. There was a cost to us. At that time, it was pretty minor. I think it was only like $5,000 or $10,000, but it still was a cost, and we don't have a line item on our budget for that. I want to add a line item for it and fund it.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to get.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Do we know what the timing of these things would be?
Tim might be able to talk about the county's timeline, I guess.
Yeah, we publish a 5-year plan every year, and go to our website, and just want an online version of it. And that can be used as a tool to determine the year that we're going to do it. So, County Road 115 is still undetermined. There is a push to get it in the next round, which would be 2022. County Road 13, in the portion that's missed, I believe, is 2021. But there's potential cost sharing there for the portions that are
How's the cost-sharing piece figured out? Is it a percentage of the overall cost? Is there some formula that,
We have a cost participation policy that's posted on our website. I don't know.
Just gave it to them so they can
Oh.
look at it. I mean, it's
okay,
detailed, so it's great to just talk it out.
Yeah, it's actually really simple, because we have MnDOT's about that big. It's the hardest of one page. And I think probably the most likely candidate in both of these projects is the use of curb and gutter. You can see that as a 50%. And that can be substantial costs. There's some associated with pumping systems in there. That's probably one of the bigger components that we're concerned about.
okay.
Yeah, I guess one thought sticks out with me. Was the policy, it's prior to the sales tax. So this policy is older than that. Would there be any possibility of having that amended now that there is the county is receiving some extra money from the state through sales tax? The city does not. So, I think it's,
It is older than the question. That's not a decision I can. This is a county board policy that we are looking to update periodically. It's fairly old. I think 2013 is the latest version on there.
Yeah.
We have a couple of other things that are scribbled in the margins that we'd like to change. And I think later this year I've asked Rob to evaluate that. That's something that he feels confident about.
well, I think some of,
Sort of on with us. I don't know the answer to the question. It's a valid question.
one of the reasons that comes up is with our wastewater system, we were looking at some kind of a sales tax issue as well. And obviously, we're not pursuing that, or we haven't received that. And roads is our other big expense, and the county was successful in getting those funds, and the city could use some help.
It's a valid question. One of the challenges is we've not done it so far. So we'll have some of the folks that are cities that have not done it. Policies change. I mean, you have one year it's on, another year it's off.
To put it in perspective, Gary, I think the way for the city to look at this is our entire road budget, for equipment, everything, is going to be just under $1 million in 2019. $50,000 for 115, if you tripled that for the 13 intersection, if there's a possibility of a roundabout at Grandview, there might be a couple other items I'm not thinking of right off the top of my head. We could quickly run into where our cost share could be a couple $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes half of our road budget
Right,
and doesn't do anything for our existing
right.
highways.
Well, yeah, as we move into budget time, probably makes some sense to kind of start factoring that in.
So while I think we should put a line item, and I think that also, whether it's the mayor or some of the council members ought to attend some of these board meetings for the county and make a case for some revising of that policy,
Yeah.
cost-sharing policy.
Yeah, agreed. Okay,
Mostly just wanted to make you aware of that, and it's a new conversation for me, and so wasn't quite sure of the city's history with these conversations, so wanted to share the information, and yeah, if we're able to kind of talk more about, at least, wanting you to be the pass-through as far as sharing with your county board.
Sure. I think, I don't know what email you have, I think we really started talking about assessments. On 115, the question came up in our meetings surrounding that. Will we be assessed? And the answer from the county's perspective is the county board has no history of assessing the county county curb work. However, if there's a cost share policy that's 50/50, for example, on curb and gutter, we can't speak for you. We don't know how you're going to generate the 50%, so we have, as it currently is written now. So we said it really is up to the cities. You'll have to talk to them. Because the county will hold, for lack of a better term, hold the county or the city responsible for the 50%. How do you generate that? You can pay it by planning like percentage of the farm or road fund by that. You know, over a number of years, or you can choose to assess it. You're likely to get those questions soon. And I think that's what that email tried to explain.
Yeah, and I just gave him the basic cost share piece of it, because we had a lot of the residents asking questions, but it's a good point.
Yeah, good to know. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like we don't welcome the improvements. It's the exact opposite of that, but we do have to have a realistic way of paying for it.
Yes.
And right now, I don't think we have one,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, no, I think making that line item is a great idea, and,
And you know what's
We
happened
wanna-
with the assessment policy
right,
6 months ago, so.
yeah. And then, to maybe encourage the mayor to try to attend some of those county board meetings and see if this policy can't be reworked. Okay, anything else there?
No, not at all. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Post office, 3/4, is that how you say that? 3/4 way?
3 or 4 way.
3 or 4, okay.
Sorry about that. It's not real clear. It's my
Yeah.
shorthand, I guess.
I thought maybe a 3-way stop was called a 3/4.
No.
I don't know. And downtown parking. So who wants to lead this one? I will say, I don't know that I'd ever noticed, if you're coming out by the new Main Street and taking a right, I don't know that I'd ever really noticed how hard it is to see, but I have noticed it now.
It is very difficult.
Yeah.
I've almost gotten hit twice myself in the last couple weeks. So it's definitely something we need to address somehow. Before this meeting, when the staff was meeting with SPAC, we talked about possibly doing a study of that intersection with them. And I think that's what we probably should do at this point, rather than getting into ideas and possibilities for that. There needs to be a plan developed with that, what's allowed. And I think we've talked about this at previous meetings too, of what can we do? You can't just throw stop signs in there. I know there's some that feel that is how you can handle this, but I think you have to know the consequences of doing that. There's some ADA concerns possibly, depending on what we do there. There's some pre-warning things that have to be done if a stop sign is placed. So I think the first step for us is probably to look at doing a traffic study on that intersection. Would you agree with that?
Okay.
I think it wouldn't hurt to put a stop sign on South Mountain, from the hardware store. I think that needs a stop sign, even if it's just a temporary thing. That would improve the situation that's there now. I'm not saying that would answer it, but it would certainly improve it. Because these cars come from the north now, and they don't slow down. And
No.
Visibility is terrible, like you say.
No.
There's going to be accidents there if there haven't been.
I agree with you, Dell, but I think you and I have that opinion, and there's a few other people who have place a stop sign here, block out the parking there, and everybody thinks it should be done now. So rather than doing anything now, I kind of want to take a step back. We've gotten through the tourist season now. By the time anything, even a stop sign gets put up, we're through the tourist season. Let's take this winter, figure out what we should do as a more of a total solution. And if it's just a stop sign, great. If it's a stop sign and block off a couple parking spots, that's fine. Or maybe it's something a whole lot bigger than that.
I think in
Or
the
stages.
Future, in the future, it needs more than that.
but I don't want to do
For those of us
anything.
that use that intersection every day to get to the post office, it's a mess.
Yeah, there's some other things that are going on there too
Yeah.
that I was trying to avoid talking about, and that's the potential of, does the post office remain where it is?
Yeah.
That
I think
it's
you
a hard
agree on
conversation to have, but it probably needs to be had. So,
Bad location for that.
it is.
So you're thinking this traffic study would be done next year during peak season, or?
Help me with this if you can, Mark. I'm not sure I'm describing this
It
right.
doesn't need to trigger in peak season. I mean, more of it is, when he says the study, it's more just the geometry, the geometrics of it. Turning movements. Now, right now, a concept plan is put down, but as Tom said, and one thing, the city, just as the county looks at warrants, the city, if you put up a four-way stop sign just because somebody says you want it, well, if there's not specific warrants that are met, there can be legal consequences for that. So, I mean, that's where, the city needs to take, I'll say, a step back and approach this a little more systematically and do the layouts to see if you can put up a stop, a controlled intersection that will work for traffic movements and turning radiuses and everything else, along just as partly with pedestrian movements. I mean, right now, on the northwest corner of that intersection, you have wood fence that comes right up to the parking. If I'm a pedestrian, I walk across, and I've got parked cars. Where am I going?
Right.
So to strike an intersection in, or a crosswalk, and then have it go nowhere, those are things that the city needs to consider if they're going to truly look at improvements of this intersection.
Well, I agree with everything you say, but I also know we've struggled through one summer, maybe 2 summers, and now we talk about another study, so that means nothing is done next summer. That's the way it goes, and it's a problem for those. I talked to the postmaster, municipal, I asked her how many boxes there are there. Well, there's between 700 and 800 boxes, postal boxes there. I had no idea there was that many. And she said that they average about 500 people a day going in and out of that post office. I think Mondays is the busiest day, but so there's a lot of traffic there for those of us who use it. Other people like you that don't have your mail there don't even know it exists. Probably, it's a problem. Especially now with the cafe there, that kind of brought it all to a head because people park in those and they just stay there.
Yep, the diagonal parking stalls are occupied in a much longer period of time and frequency.
But I agree, that's a cockeyed intersection is what it is. It's not a 90-degree one, and it'll take some study, I agree, to do it, figure it out right. I just don't like to see it, passed along from one study to another and there, nothing get done.
Right.
Go ahead, Jenny.
I was just going to say, we could certainly, I'm willing to put a request to the council to see if we can't get someone to do this study before winter, so that in the spring, we're ready to go with whatever decision we want to make, so we can get it done, and we'll make the tour season. Depends on if firms are available and have time to do it, and so we can't control those things, but we could certainly try.
I don't think a traffic study is needed so much as a study of the, engineering study of the intersection, because the traffic varies all over the map. Depending on when they would take a traffic study, they could get all kinds of different results. But I think, the intersection itself is going to be studied and, figure out what to do. It's got to be improved. Like you say, people walking, pedestrians is another problem there. It's really a hazardous place. So I don't know if you need an active traffic study.
Well, I guess, don't correlate this, we're using the word study, but as I said, we're not talking about setting up cameras and that, it's more the geometrics, the layout.
That's what I mean.
It's a study of the layout.
Analysis, probably better.
Analysis, what is reasonable to consider for both, the four-way stop condition, but then also because of the skewed intersection, sight distances, and just how are pedestrians, because once once you put down the paint, crosswalks and everything and start directing them, as Tom said, then that, that brings in the responsibility of, okay, we're directing the pedestrians. Well, what do? We bring them to that quadrant location and they have no place to go. So, it will become a little bit more involved. And I'd say it's really just, it's a layout study, what it is. It's not I'll say more of a layout study than a full traffic study. We're not really interested in how many trucks come through there each day.
So does that have to be an outfit like SPAC, or is that a service you guys can provide?
Well, it'd be a combination. I mean, we already have a background survey from the 2015 project. So, it would be that, it would be a combination of the two.
Okay.
I want to add just a little bit to that. Part of what caused us to think of SPAC and doing a traffic study was there was also some questions brought up with the one-ways, the alleys, how traffic moves through the entire downtown. So maybe this intersection is only a part of a larger project that we would look at. So that's where that came from. But maybe we want to just focus on this intersection for now. I think that's what I'm hearing, is that we want to focus on just this intersection, but.
Okay. Well, let's bring it up to council.
Okay, we'll request some kind of combination of WSN and we'll work with Mark as far as how he'd reach out to someone to help do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Great.
Engineering proposals for Hazelwood and Smiley from Schaefer's South.
Okay, what this is obviously Hazelwood, we're going to be looking at, was part of this bond that the city just entered into for road improvements for 2018. This year we're currently doing, help me out. Why I'm having a
Mission, Highland,
yeah,
St. Columbo.
Highland, Mission, St. Columbo, and
Swan Lake.
Gull Lake Drive.
Gull Lake Drive, right.
But next year, we would probably be looking at wanting to do Hazelwood and possibly Smiley South, or getting ready to time those with the county's projects. So what Jenny asked me to do was to talk to Mark about getting engineering ready for those two projects, Hazelwood and Smiley South, getting a proposal from him so that we get going on the engineering, so when the money becomes available or when the county's ready to move forward with their project, that we're ready with ours. So
Was Smiley South, where was that on your list?
it is, unfortunately I don't have that with me. It is in this bond, yes.
It is, okay. Okay.
So,
Okay.
and with the intersection at 13 coming up, depending on what the county decides to do with that, it kind of dictates when we do the project. When I started putting those bond ideas together, that wasn't on the radar. So we were just going to resurface Smiley. Well, it changed the project some. So.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds good.
That seems okay to.
Yep.
Okay, we'll bring that forward.
Well, and for tonight, I mean, I did, I have preliminary, level, if we want to talk about it and look at it at all. But, essentially for the city, what I've indicated in here, you have this, state aid, you have your application with the state for the bridge on Hazelwood, plus there's the trail. So, as I say, staff is looking at having then the survey done yet this fall, so that the design can be ready for when either the state, the bridge comes in, or the trail progresses. And, so I mean, I don't know, I could leave these with anybody tonight, from that standpoint, if you want to look at them, but I guess the question is, then is this something we want to bring to the council meeting next week, or at the latest, the council meeting in September?
Can we get it? We can do it next week, can't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great that you have that put together. Thank you. I'd love to get it forward and hopefully approved so you have more time to do your work. if that works.
So, all right, well, I'll leave copies with anybody that wants them, from the standpoint of Hazelwood and, for those. This is also for, Hazelwood. Here's Smiley, so there's one of each in that standpoint. Like I say, here what I'll do is I'll leave this to staff and then get any comments on them here and then have them ready for the council.
Perfect.
All right?
Okay. All right.
Replacement electric panel for lift station 3.
I came to you last month with 2 quotes. Those remain the same. To replace the electric panel on lift station 3. There's some electrical gremlins in there. The panel is over 20 years old. It would need to be replaced. I did get what the update is Holden Electric has given us their cost to install that panel. It's $1,000 or less. So I'm recommending that we go ahead with that replacement. We would be using the electric pump quote that I gave to you last month.
I thought you didn't have a quote at the meeting last month.
Didn't I? I apologize if I didn't. I thought I had 2. I didn't have the cost for the electrician to install them. I thought I did, but maybe I didn't.
Okay, so, but it's 25,000?
It's less
Less than that? Okay. Well, just
I
give me a copy of those.
apologize for that. I'll give
That's
you
okay.
that before the council meeting so that you know what the exact amount is.
Yeah. Okay, so this would be on the agenda next week. We had council has
Yes.
to take action on it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
So, and it's covered. We have a lift station replacement fund that this is drawn from, so.
Okay, good. And then, is that it on that one?
That would be it on that. We would just be looking for a recommendation to either go ahead or not go ahead at the council meeting from the committee here. So, Gary, you being the lone council
I
member.
recommend.
There you go.
All right, and then change the meeting date to the first Wednesday of the month.
Does that not work for anybody?
That should be fine with me.
Because it's fine with me, Mark, any,
Is the, and I don't care, but is the logic just that allows a little bit more time between this meeting and council meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Between Public Works and Planning and Zoning being the weeks of council packet preparation, I have a lot of question marks up until Thursday, just getting things ready.
Sure.
So we're looking at alternative schedules, maybe for planning and zoning as well, for 2019, for a lot of reasons, try to get more interest in the commission and things like that too, but just to make some of that scheduling a little bit easier, so,
Okay.
yeah, that'd be great.
yep, fine with me.
and do we need council action on that to change that date, or we just do it?
Good question. I'll make sure the council's informed and can
Yeah.
let me know if they have any issues.
Yeah, I don't think we would, I don't know why we would need
I
action
don't
on
know
that.
either.
Question mark.
All right, anything else?
Just one minor issue. I'm going to be out of town till next Wednesday, so. Minor issue.
Vacation denied.
You notice Monday, guardrail was installed on,
Oh, good point.
I saw that.
contractor did have a real good day. He got the third post in and then they broke the drive shaft on the truck.
Oh, yeah.
Sat there for 3 or 4 hours before somebody came to repair it. But they actually found somebody within the Pine River Granite area that could come up and put it back. Yeah, but they were actually, he called me, I was on my way to Cal City about 6:30, he said, we're done, we're leaving, so, I mean, they made it well before it got dark.
I haven't heard from anybody yet, good or bad. So
Okay,
if you
but,
get
I've
a,
driven the whole town just once, but it's the W versus cable, but, I mean, it's not like it stands out like a huge, oh my goodness, look at this when you come by 271.
Yeah.
Unless you're speeding looking for it, it doesn't catch your eye. You know, it's just 22 inches high, so.
Yeah.
Just should have been there.
Yeah. Okay, good. Is that it? Meeting adjourned.